On the campaign trail, Prime Minister Mark Carney makes a stop on the Saanich Peninsula, the traditional territories of the Saanich people, more specifically in the core zone of the Sault First Nation.
As Canadians, nature is our nature. And this wisdom comes to us from Indigenous traditions.
But there is something missing from this announcement on expanding national parks, according to the local elected chief. Consultation with the Sault Nation.
A phone call, or a meeting would have been nice, and therefore that's why I talk about the disappointing fact that there was no acknowledgement of us here in the local area, in the local territories of the Saanich people.
That's particularly concerning for Pelkey because he says those new promises Carney is making could conflict with the nation's Indigenous Protected Areas, or IPCAs, that they claimed officially last June.
Do you feel like there's a way the federal government could combine the idea of national parks and still respect IPCAs?
I believe so, and that's where the disappointing fact comes in, that you don't highlight those things when you're talking about national parks.
And he and other chiefs say it's all part of a much larger issue, this election campaign.
Much of the campaign of this election has been centered on south of the border and tariffs, and what's put by the wayside is First Nations issues. I think, priorities for First Nations need to be raised, considering that we do have a potential swing vote in some of the ridings, and I think that's really important.
Green Party co-leader Elizabeth May agrees that Indigenous issues aren't being talked about enough.
We're in a national election campaign. There are a number of issues that don't seem to be getting discussed at all, and I'm appalled by how little content we're hearing from any of the other parties about the imperative for Indigenous reconciliation, for addressing the issues that remain unresolved.
The NDP says it's committed to working on justice and rights for Indigenous people.
As a part of our responsibility at the national level, fighting for justice for Indigenous people, I think it's very important. I think it's fundamental to building a fairer Canada.
Both the Liberals and Conservatives briefly addressed their reconciliation plans at the beginning of the campaign.
We announced as a government the doubling and the broadening of the Indigenous loan program.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre promising a Canadian Indigenous Opportunities Corporation.
We want to give control to First Nations so that they can make these investments.
Whatever has been said, Indigenous leaders such as Teague and Pelkey are still hopeful that some parties may present more concrete and thorough details on commitments to help continue along the path of reconciliation, not only for their nations, but those across the country.